Sometimes the loudest battles are the ones no one else can see. You smile in public, but your heart bleeds in private. You keep moving, but deep down you're tired of pretending you're okay. We live in a world that celebrates noise, forgets the power of silence, a world that pushes us to share everything, even when we're breaking inside. But what if I told you that your greatest transformation doesn't happen when you speak? It happens when you stop, when you withdraw, when you heal in silence. Today, I'm not here to talk about giving up. I'm here to talk about coming back stronger, calmer, and unshakable. So if you've ever been broken, if you've ever felt lost, if you're quietly fighting battles no one knows about, this speech is for you. Stay with me till the end, because by the time we're done, you'll understand that silence isn't your weakness. It's your rebirth. You know, we live in a time where everything moves fast, too fast. Everyone's talking, posting, proving, explaining. We've become addicted to showing people how strong we are, how happy we look, how much we're doing. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you allowed yourself to just stop, to go quiet, not because you've given up, but because you finally decided to take your energy back? There's a deep kind of power that comes from stepping back, from choosing silence when the world expects noise. See, silence isn't weakness. It's not retreating in fear. It's an act of discipline. It's saying, I'm done letting everything and everyone pull pieces of me. It's realizing that healing can't happen when you're constantly surrounded by opinions, distractions, and expectations. When you step back, you're not running away from life. You're finally meeting yourself again. Most people don't understand that silence is where clarity lives. When you're quiet, you start hearing things you've been missing. Your own thoughts, your real desires, the truth about what's been hurting you. Sometimes the reason you feel lost isn't because you don't know where to go. It's because there's too much noise drowning out your inner compass. You can't fix what you won't face. You can't face what you can't hear. That's why stepping back is so powerful. It's a return to awareness. I've seen people go through heartbreaks, failures, deep loss, and immediately they look for ways to escape the pain. They stay busy, surround themselves with people, fill every moment with noise because silence feels too heavy. But healing doesn't happen in distraction. It happens in stillness. That moment when you finally stop pretending you're fine, you sit alone and let yourself feel what you've been running from. That's when the real work begins. You've got to understand something. Silence is not the absence of strength. It's the space where strength is built. It's in those quiet moments when no one's watching that you begin to rebuild from the inside out. When you let the noise fade, you start to recognize who you are without the world's influence, without validation, without applause, without having to prove a thing. That's when you find the raw, unfiltered version of yourself, the one that's been buried under years of expectations and noise. I remember someone once saying, when you heal in silence, your growth confuses people. And it's true, because when you step back, people might misunderstand you. They might think you've lost your spark, that you're fading away. But in reality, you're not fading, you're recharging. You're not disappearing, you're evolving. And that's something most people won't understand until they see your comeback. Think about a seed. Before it grows, it's buried in darkness. There's no applause, no audience, no validation. Just sits in the soil, quietly transforming, and one day it breaks through the surface, strong, grounded, ready to grow. That's what silence does for you. It's your soil. It's the place where you go underground so that when you rise stronger, steadier, and unshakable. The world teaches us to be loud about everything, our plans, our pain, our progress. But sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is go quiet and let your actions speak later. Because when you come back from that season of silence, you won't need to explain yourself. The peace in your eyes, the calm in your energy, and the confidence in your steps will say everything. When you step back, you give yourself permission to see things differently. You realize not everyone deserves access to your healing process. Not everyone should know what you're going through. Some things are sacred. Some moments are just between you and your growth. Protect that space, because silence isn't about isolation, it's about creation. You're creating peace, perspective, and power. And here's the beautiful part, silence also teaches patience. Shows you that not every reaction deserves your energy, not every battle deserves your presence, and not every storm requires you to prove your strength. Sometimes walking away and focusing inward is the most courageous thing you can do, because it takes guts to choose peace in a world that glorifies chaos. If you're in that season right now, that quiet, unseen, rebuilding season, don't rush it. Don't feel pressured to explain it. Let it shape you. The world will understand later. This is your reset. Your silence is your sanctuary, your strength training ground for the soul. So step back, get still, listen to yourself again. Because when you heal in silence, the world won't just see a new version of you. They'll feel it. When you come back so strong that your silence becomes the loudest thing they've ever heard. There's something powerful about the battles no one sees. The ones you fight when the lights are off, when no one's checking in, you can't find the words to explain what's breaking inside you. That's the space where real healing begins. Not in the spotlight, but in the quiet corners of your own heart. Too many people believe that healing means sharing every wound, every struggle, every moment of pain. But some of the most profound transformations happen privately, where no one else can interfere and no one else's opinion can shape your recovery. When you choose to process pain in silence, you give yourself something rare. Clarity. You stop performing your pain and start understanding it. You stop needing sympathy and start seeking strength. Because let's be honest, when you're constantly explaining your hurt to the world, you're giving energy to the wound instead of the healing. You're staying stuck in the story instead of rewriting it. Silence doesn't mean you're ignoring what happened. It means you're taking full ownership of it. You're saying, this is mine to work through, mine to understand, and mine to rise from. You see, pain is a teacher. It's brutal, it's raw, and it's relentless, but it's also honest. It strips away illusions and forces you to confront what's real. You sit with your pain instead of running from it. You begin to see it differently. You start asking deeper questions. Why did this happen? What is it trying to teach me? What part of me needs to grow through this? That's the shift from victim to student. Because when you see pain as a teacher instead of a punishment, you start to reclaim your power. I've met people who've been through unimaginable heartbreak, betrayal, and instead of trying to make the world understand, they went silent. They took time to reflect, to cry, to write, to pray, to rebuild their inner world one piece at a time. And when they came back, something about them had changed. They didn't speak from pain anymore. They spoke from peace. That's what happens when you heal privately. You stop reacting from the wound and start responding from wisdom. The truth is, pain handled publicly often turns into performance. You start saying what people expect to hear. You tailor your story for sympathy or approval. But healing privately forces authenticity. There's no one to press, no one to convince, just you and the truth. That's where real transformation happens, in those raw, unfiltered moments when you face your reflection and say, this is where I am, but it's not where I'll stay. You might feel alone during that process. You might wonder why nobody checks in, why nobody seems to understand. But that solitude is not abandonment, it's protection. It's the universe clearing space around you so you can finally hear your own voice. When you stop seeking external validation, you start trusting your internal guidance. You begin to realize that you never needed the world to understand your pain. You just needed to understand it yourself. Think of pain like fire. If you handle it carefully, it forges strength. If you throw it everywhere, it burns everything it touches. When you process your pain privately, you control the flame, you shape it into light instead of destruction. You learn patience. You learn empathy. You learn to see your scars not as something to hide, but as reminders of how far you've come. And eventually, that pain becomes your power, not because it disappeared, but because you transformed it. The greatest mistakes people make after being hurt is rushing to move on. They jump into something new, distract themselves, or pretend they're okay. But healing doesn't work like that. You can't move on until you've moved through. Silence gives you that space. It lets you slow down enough to actually process what happened, to grieve, to forgive, to release. Because healing isn't about forgetting the pain. It's about freeing yourself from it. Here's the beauty of healing in silence. No one gets to define your timeline. You're not performing progress for anyone. You can take your time. Some days you'll feel strong. Some days you'll fall apart. That's okay. Healing isn't linear. Every quiet moment of reflection is a step forward. Every tear you shed in private is part of the cleansing. Every time you choose peace over reaction, you're reclaiming a piece of yourself. When you heal privately, you also begin to understand others differently. You start seeing pain in people's eyes that they don't talk about. You become more patient, more compassionate. You realize everyone's fighting something silent. That empathy, that depth becomes part of your strength, because healing doesn't just make you stronger, it makes you softer in all the right ways. So if you're in that quiet chapter of your life, it feels like everything is falling apart and no one sees it, stay there for a while. Don't rush to explain, don't chase understanding, don't perform your healing for the world. Just be still, feel it all, write your truth. It washed through you, because the day will come when that silence turns into serenity, when the chaos inside finally settles and you realize you're not broken anymore, you're rebuilt. And when you rise from that silence, you won't need to tell anyone what you've been through. Your peace will tell the story for you. You know, there's something sacred about rebuilding quietly. Everyone loves the comeback story, the victory moment, the spotlight, the applause. Very few talk about the chapters that come before that, the long, lonely nights where you're just trying to find your footing again. The world sees the result, but it rarely sees the rebuilding. That's because true strength isn't built in public. It's built in the silence of your effort, in those moments when no one's clapping, no one's watching, and it's just you against your doubts. When you've been broken, the temptation is to prove yourself again as fast as possible, to show the world you're okay, to make noise, to post the progress, to prove the pain didn't win. But that's not how real growth works. Real growth doesn't happen in a rush. It happens in rhythm, quiet, steady, disciplined rhythm. Rebuilding quietly is not about hiding. It's about protecting your process. Because when you're healing, you're still fragile, still piecing yourself back together, still rediscovering what strength feels like again. You can't rebuild something delicate in chaos. You do it in calm. It's in that quiet season where you learn the difference between motivation and discipline, Motivation gets you started. Discipline keeps you going when motivation disappears. And it always disappears. There are days you'll wake up ready to conquer the world, and others where just getting out of bed feels like a victory. That's normal. That's human. Rebuilding is not about perfection. It's about persistence. Every small step you take, no matter how invisible it feels, is shaping the foundation for your comeback. And here's the truth. Rebuilding quietly doesn't mean you're moving slowly. It means you're moving intentionally. You're not trying to prove a point to anyone anymore. You're trying to build something that lasts. You're learning to show up for yourself, even when there's no reward in sight. You're putting in the work not because anyone's asking you to, but because you've decided you deserve better. That's real strength. That's the kind that doesn't fade when life gets tough again. When you rebuild quietly, something powerful happens. You stop seeking external validation. You stop needing the world's permission to heal, to grow, to become who you're meant to be. You start realizing that the approval you were chasing wasn't worth your peace. You don't need to explain your process to anyone because your results will eventually speak for themselves. Every hour you spend improving, every habit you rebuild, every promise you keep to yourself, that's your foundation. That's the proof that you're coming back, even if no one sees it yet. Sometimes it feels like you're making no progress, like you're stuck in the same place. But trust me, what you're doing in the dark is preparing you for the light. You're developing habits, resilience, focus, patience, all the qualities that will make your comeback unstoppable. Think about a weightlifter. They don't get stronger from one workout. They get stronger from the repetition, from showing up on the days they don't feel like it. That's what quiet rebuilding looks like. The repetition of growth, the quiet grind, the private progress that compounds into transformation. And yes, people will doubt you. They'll question your silence. They'll wonder why you've disappeared, why you're not sharing every detail of your life anymore. Let them wonder, because you're not here to prove them wrong. You're here to prove yourself right. You're not running from the world. You're preparing to return to it stronger than ever. There's a huge difference between giving up and starting over, and what you're doing now is the latter. You're starting from a place of awareness, maturity, of purpose. You're no longer building from ego. You're building from experience. And that kind of rebuilding has depth. It has roots. You're not just trying to look strong, you're becoming strong. That's the difference between a temporary comeback and a lasting transformation. And here's something I've learned. When you rebuild quietly, your energy shifts. You start attracting peace instead of chaos, authenticity instead of approval. You stop explaining your worth and start living it. You begin to realize that every single thing that tried to break you is actually shaping you into someone unshakable. You start carrying yourself differently, not louder, but calmer, not to impress, to express who you've become. This process requires patience. It requires you to trust in something you can't see yet, the version of you that's being built in the silence. But one day, you'll look back and realize that this quiet rebuilding season was the most powerful chapter of your story. Because when you emerge, you'll no longer be searching for strength. You'll be the strength. So keep going, even when it feels slow, even when it feels unseen. The work you're doing right now is sacred. It's rebuilding your confidence, your peace, your power. And when the time comes for the world to see you again, they won't just see someone who survived, they'll see someone who evolved. Because the strongest version of you is the one you built in silence, piece by piece, long before anyone was watching. There comes a moment after the silence, after the rebuilding, after all the nights you thought you'd never make it through, when you finally realize you're not the same person anymore. Something inside you has shifted. You don't react the same way. You don't chase what used to drain you. You carry a calm that no one gave you and no one can take away. That's the power of healing in silence. It transforms you so deeply that your comeback doesn't even need an announcement. Your presence becomes the proof. You emerge from that quiet season. You won't need to convince anyone of your growth. You won't have to explain what you went through or how hard it was. The energy you carry will speak louder than any story could. The peace in your eyes, the way you walk, the tone of your voice. They'll all say it for you. People might look at you and think, what happened? But you'll know. You'll know it wasn't magic. It was the process, the pain, the silence, the rebuilding. You didn't just survive, you evolved. Coming back stronger isn't about proving anyone wrong. It's not about revenge or making people regret how they treated you. It's about proving yourself right, proving that you could fall apart and still rebuild, that you could lose everything and still find yourself again, that you could walk through the fire and not let it turn you bitter, but better. The goal isn't to return to who you were before everything broke. It's to become someone wiser, more grounded, more powerful than ever before. When you come back different. You stop chasing validation. You stop over-explaining. You start protecting your peace like it's sacred, because it is. You start realizing that your silence wasn't empty. It was full of lessons. Every heartbreak taught you boundaries. Every failure taught you strategy. Every loss taught you gratitude. Now, you carry that wisdom in everything you do. You don't need to shout your comeback from the rooftops because your energy will do the talking. People will feel the difference. They'll sense the stability in your spirit, the quiet strength that doesn't demand attention. It commands respect. It's almost poetic. How the same silence that once felt so heavy becomes the foundation of your strength. You start to understand why you had to disappear for a while. You had to go through seasons where no one understood you. It all makes sense when you return. Because when you come back, you see life through a new lens. You recognize what truly matters and what doesn't. The small things that used to shake you don't have power over you anymore. You've developed emotional armor, not hard walls, but healthy boundaries. And that's when you realize you didn't just come back stronger, you came back smarter, calmer, intentional. There's something magnetic about a person who's been through pain and still chooses peace. You can feel it when they walk into a room. They don't need to demand attention. They simply hold it. That's the kind of strength that silence gives you. You don't return trying to prove your worth. You embody it. You don't explain your growth. You live it. That's what it means to come back stronger. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's undeniable. And as you rise, you'll start to notice something else. You'll begin attracting differently. The people, the opportunities, the energy that come into your life will match your new vibration. Because healing changes your frequency. Stop settling for things that drain you. You'll no longer tolerate chaos disguised as love or noise disguised as purpose. You'll crave peace and you'll protect it like a treasure. That's when you truly know you've healed, when peace becomes more attractive than validation. You see, healing in silence teaches you self-trust. And when you trust yourself, the world can't shake you. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. You stop looking for answers outside yourself because you've already found them within. That's why your comeback is so powerful. It's rooted in authenticity, not ego. You didn't rebuild for applause. You rebuilt for alignment. You didn't rise to prove your strength. You rose to live your truth. When that day comes, when you stand in front of the mirror and realize you've made it through what once tried to destroy you, there's no need for celebration or performance. Just quiet gratitude. Gratitude for the pain that taught you resilience. Gratitude for the silence that gave you clarity. Gratitude for the rebuilding that gave you purpose. Because you'll finally understand everything you went through wasn't meant to break you, was meant to shape you into this, the version of you that stands tall, steady, and whole. So when you come back, let your peace speak. Let your energy speak. Let your growth speak. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your evolution. The ones who doubted you will see it. The ones who believed in you will feel it. And you'll just keep walking stronger and softer all at once, knowing that the silence that once scared you became the very thing that set you free. Because the greatest comeback isn't the one the world sees. It's the one where you finally see yourself healed, whole, and unshakably at peace.